Welcome to Beyond the Frame Initiative. We are three diverse women working to elevate wellness for all of us through exploring facts over feelings in parenting, politics, and everything in between.
Welcome to Beyond the Frame Initiative podcast. I'm Julie, and I'm here with my co-host,
Robin.
I'm Rachel.
And what has got you guys up and what has got you guys down?
Well, I guess I'll go first. What's got me up? My husband's birthday was on Monday, so I'm always happy to get to spend another year celebrating him. And I was telling him, I was like, we've had 18 birthdays together, which is insane because look, like I'm only like, definitely. But, we kept it cool, but it was really nice to just like spend some time showering him with love. So that's what's got me up. Say what's got me down. What's got me intrigued is all this stuff going on because the Pam Bondi hearing was just like explosive and crazy. And, I know this is a necessary situation we're going through, but I'm definitely ready to see the tides turn. So yeah, not a down, just a something's brewing, and I'm excited to see what's going on. What about you, Rachel?
My son had a birthday yesterday, so that was really exciting. And because he's young, it was like the celebrations are all month long. There's something on Saturday with a friend of his from out of town at the end of the month. So, but we had a really good time. We went to a new noodle place that we've been wanting to try out here in the area, and it was so good. We love ramen. That was free. It was fun. He had a good time. It was nice to see how his friends came over, his bestie came over, and the family made breakfast muffins, and I thought that was really sweet. And they sang happy birthday to him at 7:45 in the morning.
Aw.
It was really sweet. Yeah, down, I wouldn't say that it's not down, but I'm there's a few things. Yes, I'm kind of like ignited by the Pam Bondi because I'm like, what is wow. First of all, who do you work for? Because it seems like you have a client. It should be the United States of America and the people, but it's kind of looking like the other way. Looks like the president is your client, but the other thing that's like kind of like bothering me a little bit is that, we're so concerned about a 13-minute beautiful performance by Bad Bunny, but we're not concerned about like so good. But we're not so concerned about, I don't know, all the other Epstein-y, like, nasty shit that's going on in our country. We're so like, I see people that are so mad at this, so mad. You're mad about that? But everything else, but you're okay with like, and I'm talking about like reporters. There's a few reporters that are so triggered by bad money, so triggered, but not triggered by what's going on politically in our country with the whole thing, right? The Epstein files, the lying, all that stuff. So that has also got me a little not that's got me a little bit down. Like where our priorities really just a mess,
You're right, Rachel.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I'll ditto that for got you down. It's heartbreaking whenever, we hear stories of people being violated and abused, especially children. And those girls were children. Teenagers
They're
are
children.
children. And I worked for a number of years in a children's home where there were a lot of children that had experienced abuse and neglect. And I remember sometimes telling people, I wouldn't violate the child's privacy, but maybe telling them an idea of what would happen to these kids, and I would never share the worst of it because you don't need to put those images in people's minds. But there have been times where people said, "No, I don't believe that. Moms would never do that to their kid." And to me, that so people don't want to believe the bad, which I understand that goes across all kinds of issues and topics. The good, like what's got me up, is that this is so big and it is such a huge conspiracy that these guys, they conspired together to do this to children, that maybe it's going to move our nation in a way where we can really shore up laws to protect children and women from sexual violence and men. It happens to men too, mostly to children and women, but it does happen to men. But what's got me up is like sometimes people have to see the evil and recognize it to like do what it takes to protect
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
Agree.
So on that note, we're gonna go into our part 2 of our series, America is a Business and We Are the Price to Pay. Part 2 is Corporate and Government Accountability is Upside Down. In the United States of America, scales of justice are meant to be impartial. However, in reality, those with the most money to place on the scales tip it in their favor. What we're seeing today in the US isn't new, it's inherited. When a nation fails to enforce accountability from the very onset, or learns that it can ignore the rules and still survive. We have a history of those in power not being held accountable for unjust practices or even breaking the law. This includes the Civil War. After the Civil War, Jim went largely unpunished. That taught elites a dangerous lesson. If you have power and money, legal consequences are optional, even when you rise up in violence. So let's go right into our main question. How is accountability for breaking laws different for giant corporations, billionaires, and government officials than it is for small businesses and everyday people like us?
I mean, one thing that comes to mind is like minor crimes and petty theft and, smoking pot and stuff like this get major jail time, right? Like you just like, all this stuff, like it was pretty intense. While large scale financial misconduct often results in either some fines or fines you can pay that is not a hefty price tag for you or no prison time at all. I think about that. Like, you can just pay your way out of it, and that's something that I think. And then remember that 2008 financial crisis where the major banks got the bailouts, but and the very few executives faced any sort of consequence? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Right? But you're still giving out jail walking tickets and you get 3 strikes, and so like, it's just so I really shows the power of money and buying your way out of legal consequence. You can buy it out. You can buy out of it.
And not just that on a technical level of, I think my biggest thing is I think the way that people look at it, because when people see businesses get bailed out, they don't look at it in the same way. They don't have the same understanding of like a single mom. Like there's a woman, she gave like her family member's address so she could send her kids to a better school. And they put her in jail.
She
And
went to jail.
so she shouldn't have done that. She should have get to a better neighborhood, or the lady who like left her kids in the car so she could go do an interview. I think that the system has normalized us looking down, especially on people of color, and shame on you. Let's wag our finger and judge you because how dare you, and when people who have a lot of money, I think people perceive it as this bigger than life, but it's different because like they need these billions of dollars to make it, of course. And when you're dealing with big money, you
Right.
know, big money problems happen. Like that's really, I think, how people like, you gamble and sometimes you lose, but they just
Right.
for the everyday person. And that is part of what needs to change the most, that people need to understand like that could be you. A few wrong moves and you could be a couple payments from being on the street, or you are living that reality and you judge someone, especially if they don't look like you. Because we also, we live in a system that really looks at people of color as less than, or you don't pull yourself up by the bootstraps, but then when they do, you tell them that they're DEI higher. Make it make sense. Like, I hope that this period of time inspires people to like really sit down and think about what you're saying, because when you say that, it makes no sense at all. The math doesn't math. So I think that's the even bigger problem.
Yeah, and they don't explore things like you were saying, like they just gave that $500 billion in payouts to the banks, right? And that's our money. That's our money. And they said they had to have it or they would fail. And then much of that money they gave to the higher ups. It doesn't all tally up either, right? Yet you have men walking around and leading our country who are involved in one of the largest conspiracies of sexual abuse of children, and they are not being held accountable. In fact, they're being protected. Their information's being redacted. Like, how does that? Where's the accountability?
Redacted, and not only that, to hear a woman, speaking of certain reporter, what I understood, it was like teenagers. It was like 15, wasn't like 8, 9-year-olds. So, I think I said it last week. Like, even if you are a fuck them kids kind of person, at some point you were a child. And you have to know how scary that must be to be in a place where you are not safe, where you may not make it home, and people are exploiting you. You don't even understand what you're participating in. So for someone to even be like, man, you know, Excuse me? A child is a child is a child. You as a
Mhm.
child, not you be like, I'm so grown up, but we all know that is a child. When you turn 18, you think you know everything. You are still a child. You're still figuring things out. And so for someone to even twist their mind to do that in order to help themselves cope with what they're actually protecting is I don't understand it. I really don't.
Yeah.
And then the justice system keeps them safe.
Mhm.
Well, that
Li If you guys would be sued by, like, a millionaire, somebody who could afford a really good lawyer, what are your chances, do you think, in court? Do you feel like you trust the judicial system to protect you in that case?
maybe if I wasn't this color, maybe if
Mhm.
I wasn't this color, I'd have a chance. Drop some tears. What was
Maybe. You can
the
cry.
guy? You know, I could be your dog. No, maybe lashes, wear a nice push-up bra. It could happen. It could
It gets weaponized a lot. You know, there have been cases where families
happen.
don't agree with a political stance, and so then they get targeted by the courts trying to find dirt on them. And they don't over time, they don't find the dirt, but that drug the family through the mud while that's going on. And then so then that's why they look for things like more because you can say, "Well, there was a mistake." We're not talking about who actually defrauded the government. They made a mistake. It'd be like somebody going in and looking at all of our taxes. You do the best you can do. You're as honest as you can be, but you have one error, even if it's corrected in another place, and then they can sue you for mortgage fraud. Even if you get out of it, think about all the amount of money and time and energy that takes from the average person. It always falls in favor of those with money.
100%.
What about breaking the law? How is that accountability for, let's say, government officials or those with a lot of money? Maybe the police?
Right. Well, I mean, do we even really? I think we're all kind of like, I don't even know where you begin to address the situation because, there's so many of these things, even on a historical level, when you think about, of course, I'm coming from a racial lens, but how the KKK,
Mhm.
they were the cops, they were the lawyers. They were the people who could make the decisions, and then they passed that on, they passed that on, they passed that on, and I will say one thing about the current times that I do appreciate is they can't hold it in. They can't stop themselves from being racist. They literally just like it's like they say it, they own it sometimes. And I think because they feel like at this current time there are no consequences, but we the people remember. So yes, put it out
Yeah.
there. Let you know. Like don't hide it because it needs to be just as recent as when you were talking about the Super Bowl.
Mhm.
I never watched this housewife, but she went on and posted and said, where are the white people at? Lady Gaga was there, but that wasn't enough.
That wasn't
And
enough.
that character syndrome gets them every single time. She got fired from her upcoming show that she was supposed to do, and she has a stain. Like this is what needs to happen. That kind of shame, for going, you recorded it. Your daughter told you don't do it because you're going to get canceled, and you posted it anyway because you're in a group of people who share those same beliefs, and so you're like,
Yeah.
ah, and you didn't think there were going to be consequences. So, the way that racism, the way that power dynamics, they pollute our judicial system, they pollute, so many aspects of how we live and how we're affected. I don't know if it can ever fully be undone. But it's very easy to see how a regular everyday person can't benefit in the same way because everybody's I scratch your back, you scratch mine or
Yeah.
my keys do something, we got to make it go away. And like in some aspects, I'm like, why do you even still want that kid in your house? Like, there's some things that are so egregious that you have to be like, right? Like, why aren't people disgusted enough to be like, I want no parts of it and I don't want to be involved? That's what is a head scratcher.
Yeah, we often see, like, with, with policing or government officials not being held accountable. I mean, obviously with, there was a treasonous act in the Civil War, and that largely went unpunished, right? Like, that
Mhm.
was okay, somehow we were and then, in fact, in modern day, we have statues of Confederate
Mhm.
soldiers and officials, like, being erected in parks and stuff, and people getting really upset when you wanna take them down 'cause it's downright offensive. But also, like if you look at slave patrols and like how the structures enforced racial and economic hierarchies, like back in the day, right? But not that long ago, and how that history shapes ongoing debates about accountability and an unequal enforcement of law, right? We see law as just straight up lopsided, excessive force against Black and brown people, and oftentimes these cops are not criminally charged, or they are, and then it's reduced or dismissed because you get a moment of like hope, like okay, maybe this is going to be the thing, and these cops are going to be held accountable, and some have, but most haven't, and these patterns repeat across decades, and communities begin to. I think communities now are so deep in questioning and seeing that the Justice Department is not applied equally. It's just not. And as much as we like to sell ourselves on this idea of equality and all the things, you just look at policing systems, you look at ICE, right? You look at these different systems, and you don't need to have. It's very evident, and so it's upsetting. It's evident, and it's really triggering, and it's just repeated trauma. Black and brown communities just repeated. And Robin, you brought this up earlier. Now that it's happened to white people, it's like, oh my gosh. But I feel like if we had stopped Black and brown people from the very beginning from being indiscriminately targeted and profiled, killed, if we as Americans were like, this is unacceptable. I don't care if they're Black and brown. Killing civilians by police force or any sort of government is unacceptable. It is not okay against our people. I don't think we'd be here if it was
Absolutely.
unacceptable. We're so anti-Black that it's okay. We let it slide, and now here we are. But Black and brown people are like, well, it's just happening to you now. It's been happening here.
Yep.
And that's part of the outrage, because people are like, when are you guys gonna get involved? When are you gonna stand up? And it's like, we've tried to tell you. We've been screaming it. Our ancestors, our mothers, our grandmothers, they've been screaming it, and you refuse. You step over us. You come up with people to stop and think what it must feel like to get pulled over by a group of people who are supposed to be law enforcement. They have stuff covering their face. They're cussing at you. They break your windows. They pull you out of your car. And people say things like, if you would have complied, this wouldn't have happened. That's not real. That's not true. First of all, let's talk about your nervous system. I want people. I've got tickets before, like going through the stop sign and not stopping completely. When I whoop whoop, when I hear it, my heart drops to my feet. And not because I've done anything wrong. I'm not hiding anything. I don't have no substances. I'm not on probation. I'm nothing. But that fear is in me. Not because my mom didn't even raise me to be fearful, but I feel scared because I just don't know what's going to happen to me. That is something that some people innately have built into them. You have no idea how you're going to act in the moment because you're scared. You just want to like make it be over. You just want to live. Like, people have to actually think that. I just want to live because I don't know if I'm going to get the wrong cop on the wrong day who got an attitude, who's racist, who's not just wanting to do their job. They want to get some rage out of their system. Like, those are real things that happen. So when people say you should just comply, if you would have just listened, this wouldn't have happened. Tell that to Renee Good. Yes, she was trying to help warn people, but she said like, man, I'm good. We're good. I don't have a problem with you. That's what she said. Those are her last words. Did she deserve what happened to her? Can you really honestly say if she would have just not been there, what she did not deserve for her to end her life to be ended? Not only for her life to be ended in such a way, but when she had an opportunity to get help, y'all denied her. You denied. Cameras are rolling, and you denied her. That's just
8
straight.
minutes.
She
was alive for 8 minutes.
And for the white people listening to this that go, my stomach drops too when the police lights go on. Your stomach drops because you don't want to get a ticket. Because maybe you don't want to go to jail if you've done something you really shouldn't be doing, like drinking, driving, but not because you think you're heard. And that is a real fear for people who do not present as white. That is a very real fear. And they are treated differently. I've been witness to this many times because I was lucky enough to grow up somewhere diverse. But for people who haven't witnessed this, people aren't just making that up. Why would anybody make that up? That's like if a woman says to a man, I want the windows and doors locked when I'm asleep at night because I have a real fear, like him going, no, that stuff doesn't happen. It's not real. Men don't rape you. What are you talking about? It's real. It's really real. And if people could just have empathy for each other. And we do need to hold police accountable. Hey, there's good cops out there, and we're doing it for them too. Because the good cops end up getting targeted because of the bad cops, right? So we need to hold police accountable. Wouldn't it be nice if we really felt like the cops were always civil servants? And wouldn't it be, nice for the good cops to not have people hate them so much because of all the shit the bad cops do and are not held accountable for?
Yeah.
We need that.
And who's
We all
we?
need that.
We need to hold them accountable because they're protected by legal doctrine, right? I think they're protected from civil lawsuits or something like this, right? From civil suits, or they're protected from something, and that's often why it's so hard for victims to win the lawsuit. So, like when we say we, I don't know if we have who's we. I'm wondering like who can hold them accountable, and then you look to the top of those spaces and who's in the top of those public and power dynamics. I don't know because
Yeah,
I just know
there
that
needs to
just
be change.
there needs to be a change, I think, in the systems in place to make accountability structurally different so they can be held accountable.
Right. Yeah.
Investigation. I'm like, oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. And it's true for all of us when you think about it, right? Like we all need accountability to some level. We're all gonna act a little different. Like I'll call myself out. Like I'm not a screaming mom. I don't scream at my kids. I really try to talk to them, but I have raised my voice. I have yelled. And if I'm in, sometimes I raise my voice too in public. But generally, if I know there's a bunch of people around, I'm gonna be a little bit more chill than I am at home. That's just the truth, right?
Like Julie, even on that level, if I'm
Yes.
which I'm rarely out with all of my kids because they just be scared because people just be, doing too much. If I raise my voice at my kids, I'm not just scared that I'm gonna get judgment. I'm scared that someone's
Right.
gonna be like, let me call
Yeah.
CP. Like
Yes.
I have those fears, and I've had a situation, not where anybody's said anything like that, but I had a recent situation with my baby where we had to go to the hospital for her, and it ended up being nothing. But at one point, I was like, "Can I take my baby home? Like, can I just sign against doctor's orders because it was not that serious?" And they were like, "Well, not saying it's you, but if you take your kid, we would have to get the authorities involved." And my heart, I I had a knot in my throat because I was like, my mind didn't just think, well, one, I would never put my child in harm's way. You guys can see she's okay. And if something's wrong, I'll do what any parent does. I'm going to bring her to the hospital so that she can be reviewed. But as a Black woman with Black children and a Black husband, you're telling me if I take my child home that you could send the authorities here who now, if you see a scratch, a bump, if they say
Mhm.
something, oh yeah, I was running it, my mom kind of pushed my side. Their mind would go crazy and they could break up my family. That's how far it goes. That's how far I have to think ahead. That's the mental gymnastics that you have to do to survive because someone could use the system against you just to mess with you, just to fuck with you, even if you didn't do anything wrong. Like I really want people to understand we live in two different realities. So what's happening right now, it's not that people of color or Black people specifically I can speak of, it's not that we're not bothered. It's just that this has been our existence. This is how we have to move through life. This is literally how you have to survive. So yeah, even if my kids get upset, I'm not going to snap on them or raise my voice on them in public because even if they deserve because they did something they weren't supposed to do, I don't know what the consequences could be just because someone's a bystander and they want to weaponize their voice to harm us. So
Right.
it's a
That's a
it's a
great
real
example of white privilege too. When people are trying to understand that, that's a really good example of that because I would never have to think of that. Like
Mhm.
I'd have to really haul off on my kids for me to be worried about
Right.
CPS calling, which I won't do. I won't do it even at home. I'm not a stinky mama. But
like you're not doing anything that would even warrant
Yeah.
like I would be like, me too, child. I get it. You know what I mean? Even if that's the reality, you just never know who's around. And like
yeah.
that I even have to think like that. I hate that
Yeah.
it's not because I yell at my kids like that. It's not because, I do anything that would be considered like, well, that's too much. But you just have like I have to. I have because I don't want to ever be in a situation where someone could twist something, you know, around and kids they don't know they participate in a conversation and they don't know they're doing any harm but it might come out wrong, you know what I'm saying, like you just Like, I could feel that nervousness just talking about it because it's like somebody's living that. Like, somebody has had that experience because someone wanted to meddle and do harm to them. You know what I'm saying? And those are there are major repercussions for that.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sorry, Robin. And yeah, the fear of having your child being separated from your child, that's the worst thing you could do to a person, and it's not
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Shouldn't exist. Shouldn't be
shouldn't.
happening.
And then when it's people who really need to get their kids taken away, people turn the blind eye. That's what's crazy.
Mhm.
They turn a blind eye.
Turn a
It's
blind
like
eye. Well, and it affects disproportionately too when you're talking about accountability in other ways, it disproportionately affects the non-white community, like the Flint water crisis and nuclear waste sites that have not been cleaned up. And this is another way corporations don't have accountability. And I want people to hear us because I think there's a lot of people out there who their defense mechanism comes up. We're not saying this doesn't happen to white people. Very disproportionately happens to people who are not white and across the board people of low income. Like you look, Flint people, I mean, it was just, that was wild. Nobody was held accountable. Governor who knew about that and nobody stopped it.
clean. That's what I heard. The water's still not clean. It's
That wouldn't
sad.
surprise me one bit. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Yep. And then all the forever chemicals and PFAs. How are you guys feeling about that? And even if you have even if you can afford a water filtration system here, it's raining those forever chemicals
Right.
all around the world.
We just got plastics just all over us, all in us.
All over us.
I
mean,
think that sometimes I think that there are more people that are angry about it, but they just don't know what to do to change it. And I think that's why we need to stop making government and all those things seem so out of people's scope. And I think we touched on that last episode. We need to have that person who's like, let me just take all this jargon and simplify it. Not
Mhm.
because you're not smart enough, but because I want to make it so I want to tell you how easy it is to understand, how ridiculously easy this is to understand, and that they make it seem harder so that you just be like, I don't know. I don't know. After line 5, I don't know what's going on. So just do whatever. Like when people are under duress and then they feel like they don't understand, a lot of times they will just cave in and be like, okay, I give up because I don't know. And you're making me feel
Much.
dumb. I think that's how that system is working to keep people blind to what's happening right in front of them. I was listening to a story yesterday. I believe it's in Oregon where a community is trying to fight against these AI data centers who want to take up like a whole bunch of open land, and the children is missing. Just like that's a good example. Like it took one person to be like, we need to show up and speak up because what's happening is not okay. And then the officials like, like because they weren't expecting us to not show up at city hall. I haven't, and I want that barrier to come down so people realize like this is for us, right? It's not some out of reach thing where just these people handle it for you. It is to serve us. These people are elected to serve us. So we have to be there to hold them accountable because apparently, some of them just can't do it on their own. They just, for some reason, just get in there. They just lose sight of the fact that they're there to serve the people and not serve their own interests or not put their hands in the pockets and they put the pockets. I think that that's like a huge thing that if that could change, we could see a lot more shift the right way. There'll always be corrupt people who get in. There'll always be people trying to pollute the system. But I think so many people think that's a rich thing. That's a, grad school thing. I don't know anything about that. When a lot of people who don't have degrees are some of the smartest people you will ever meet. And the world tells them, you're not smart enough to do that. You're too dumb to do that. So we need to change that and stop judging each other. Like, even if you have a degree, even if you are a professional, you need to find a way to be like, the bar can still be high for me, but we're making it hard for people to survive. Forget thriving. Forget thinking that they're trying to take something off your plate. They just want to survive. Everybody wants to have clean water, a shelter to stay, like somewhere to call home, maybe a nice car to drive or clean buses in their area or to be able to get nice, clean, healthy food. Or, you know what I mean? Like the basic needs is what everyone deserves. It shouldn't be dangled like a carrot.
But everyone's so exhausted from work of being overworked and overtired and underfunded and underpaid and have no access to barely any child support. And it's so hard for people to just show up at the board meetings. It's so hard for them to show up. And while that goes, when that's happening, right, corporations are able to resist any sort of regulations that would help better whatever it is through safety testing, environmental, long-term accountability. It just falls through the cracks. And it shows that legal and political pressure really only help if people can show up, but we're tired. Okay, we're
Yeah,
tired.
they
You can
count
barely
on
go to your
that.
school. We can barely go to the PTA stuff, right? And so
Mhm.
I think we have lost sight that we are in power. We are in power.
Mhm.
The government works for us, but that doesn't the narrative has absolutely flipped where people feel like, oh my God, like there's nothing we can do. Like there's nothing we can do. Like it has turned into this whole entire like monster that we have like if we get near it, we get rejected from it. We will get drugged down. We'll get doxxed. We get fined. Like we can't even get near it. And it's like spinning out of control. And it has all this like legal and political influence that we don't have as the people. And that's what we feel like, right? But there is power in numbers. And we've seen through historical movements that we can make change. We can do it. It's just, what is our breaking point? What is our tipping point? When is enough enough? And then not everybody can lead, right? Some people, not everybody's born. Some people don't want that responsibility. There are a lot of political leaders, and that is, you put so much on the line to be that person. And some people need that person to get behind.
Mhm.
Somebody has to step, and we see it through all these movements. Someone somewhere has stepped up and they put their life and their family's lives and their children's lives on the line, but they are the change makers. And we have the power to do that. It's just there's something going on where there's this like collective exhaustion, just beat downness of just like we can't even get a house. Like,
Yeah.
like we can't buy anything, we can't do anything, we can't like it's just exhausting to be American.
Well, and fear too, because we were talking about that accountability. The three of us, we know we're putting ourselves out here doing this podcast, talking, and our goal is like we want more people to like come together. We want to put a bigger circle around all of us. We don't want people out there who maybe made bad choices to feel stuck. We want you to pull out of it and come with us, but we know we're saying things that are not gonna be popular with some politicians who have money, and we know this, we're stepping over that line. You got to, like, you have to, right? Like, you have to. I mean, you guys out there that are parents know how exhausting just being parents are. You can imagine how much time and energy it's taking for us just to get podcasts out. Oh my gosh, let alone all the sicknesses.
I was thinking about it because I know this is my part, but you said something, Rachel, and I want to give everybody homework. The book's so corny and it's very like the more you know, but like instead of it being nothing, it's nothing. There, there's nothing we can't do. You start small, find community. That could be your neighbor. That could be your sister, your brother, your friend. That person from school that you barely talk to anymore, but they talk they shit, and you reach out to them and be like, "Listen, you got to get behind this." Whatever it takes. I want people to understand there is nothing we can't do. There is nothing we cannot accomplish. And even if it's small, you don't know who's watching, you don't know who's paying attention, you don't know who's being inspired. And this is on all levels. It's not just a governmental thing. This is in your life. There's nothing you can't do. Do what you can in small spurts. It's sometimes big strides, right? But every day you take something that's a win and you try to remember that for when you feel like beat up, when you feel like you're exhausted and it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why I feel it on me and I just gotta say it. There's literally this thing that we're doing. We are part of the resistance. Somebody out there is going to be fired, or somebody who's hearing this is going to reach out to someone and be like, you need to, I can't say it, but these ladies can say what I can't say. No, but I want to change. I want to feel better. I don't want to feel miserable. I don't want to feel exhausted about the ways of the world. I want to feel hopeful for my future, for my children, for someone else's children. It doesn't matter, for yourself. You want to be able to grow old and be like, hey, if I want to retire, I can do that. I don't have to work till the day I die. Like,
Right.
these are real things. And I hope, even if it's just one person, that we are affecting change in this world. That we are something that our kids can be like. They may only put out 4 podcasts so far, but that's fine. That's my, and I'm proud of her. You know what I'm saying? I feel that that's a message. There was a message because
Yes.
We can, and we need to, because Just like the nuclear, there's dozens of nuclear sites out there that have not been cleaned up. They didn't make us into Spider-Woman as much as we would like that to be the truth. These AI companies are not being held accountable because it's a race for profit. It's a race for control. The people are the ones that are going to suffer. We got to stand up. You got to figure out, find your lane, right? Whether it's like holding governments and corporations accountable for corporate welfare or paying a fair living wage. Our government structure with the separation of judicial, legislation, and executive was created to protect life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and self-governance for the people. When corporations' needs come before the rights of the people, that's not democracy drifting, that's democracy being sold. So we've run out of time for today, but we'd like to pose this question to our listeners regarding part 3 of this series. There is a cost of doing business. In order to start a business, you need to be able to pay your expenses in order to operate. Yet large corporations oftentimes are not required to pay the cost of doing their business, and instead they pass that cost along to us people. So what are some examples of how current corporations have unloaded their cost of doing business onto you, your family, or the American people in general? Please think on that and then join us for part 3 of this podcast series. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Frame Initiative podcast. You can email us at info@beyondtheframeinitiative.com and receive a free facts over feeling sheet and more helpful links at our website. Thank you so much for supporting our podcast, and we'll see you soon.